Hello, friends. Welcome to Experience Data Talk, a show featuring data science leaders and technologists from around the world. My name is Mike Delgado, and this is episode number 120. Today, we're chatting with Lynette Kebirungi. Lynette was recently named as one of the top 20 women working in data. She's also Uganda's second female aerospace engineer and currently works as a turbine aerothermal engineer at Rolls-Royce. We chat with her about her academic background, her love of physics, how she deals with adversity, why she has a fighter mentality, and what she's doing to close the gender gap and help girls and women pursue careers in STEM. We also talk with her about COVID-19 and how her growth mindset has helped her during this very difficult time. Lynette was born and raised in Kampala City, Uganda, and earned her master's in science degree in advanced aeronautical engineering at Imperial College London and a bachelor's of engineering degree in aerospace engineering at the University of Liverpool. Her research and interests are focused on the field of fluid aerodynamics. Lynette is a brilliant thinker, passionate engineer, a humble leader, and I had so much fun getting to know her. Here's our conversation. Lynette, thank you so much for doing Data Talk.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your love of mathematics and physics? When did that start for you?
Interesting question. So I actually love physics more than maths. But I've always loved the two, to be honest, because I find them quite interesting and simple. Like it just makes sense to me. And those were my two favorite subjects at high school. But I actually recently spoke to a very old friend who happened to say that even when because I personally thought that I chose this path just because my memory lets us down, lets me down like that. I thought I chose this path in high school, in A levels, like towards the end of my high school. But well, in actual sense, my friend said no. Like when we were still in like the early days of high school, when you were 14, you used to talk about aerospace, and we'd all laugh at you and just wonder what what dreams you're having. And so I would say like it was probably I've probably always been drawn to that, to maths and physics, like all through high school. Yeah. So.
And did it always like click for you?
Like, did I always understand it?
Yeah. Did it come natural to you? Did you found it interesting? You really enjoyed it, and then did you also find that the concepts like made sense to you?
Yes, so physics more so. And I think I'm unlike other people. I was a bit of a late bloomer. I didn't really like to go to school, to be honest. And so it wasn't until I got to high school that I actually started picking quite a lot of interest in my physics and maths. Yeah, so I think the physics was like right there. The maths, I feel I had to it's more the weaker strength. So it's what I really had to work at. But I think in every science you have to work hard. Even the ones that come naturally, you still need to continue to build your craft. So yeah, that's I've always kind of felt that way.
I think it's so cool that you mentioned your friends like, oh, even when you were younger, you're talking about aerospace.
Yeah, I was, and I grew up in Uganda. So to my friends, they were like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't even have an aviation industry here. Like, wake up. So yeah, it was weird for them, and I don't even personally. Again, I can think of multiple things while I was growing up that probably put me on this path. But yeah, to a lot of people around me, it was just bizarre. Like, why are you even doing this? Yeah.
Were there any like teachers that stand out to you that really encouraged you in physics and to pursue that?
If I was to think of a champion on my path, I would say it was more specifically for family, and even within my family, it wasn't everybody. I would say my mom for sure, biggest champion, and yeah, but I didn't really, again, like it was such an unnatural thing, like for a Black female to go down that path, let alone aerospace that doesn't even exist in the country. So I guess it wasn't that they didn't want to support me, but more like they just didn't see it happening. So I had to kind of push through a lot of doubts. Yeah, a lot of doubt. Yeah.
What were some things that your mom did that helped to encourage you? Because I know that there's a lot of parents out there listening in. They're like, I want to make sure that I'm supporting my kids. But were there things that your mom did, your certain family members did that helped you along with your path? Because yeah, it's difficult when, like you're saying, like there wasn't a path for you. You're like, there's no other Black females that were pursuing aerospace.
No. So my mom, she was really supportive in the sense that she kind of did a really great job at fighting off all the negative comments that came my way. She'd be like, nope, don't listen to those people. You can do absolutely anything. And she also sort of, I always had coaches like coming home in the holidays. I mean, my whole family had a coach to just help us make sure our grades were high. So she gave us that emotional support, but she was also like quite logical in the sense like, okay, here's a coach, here's where you can practice. But I think what really powered me from her was just her undying belief that I could achieve it, and she was like, it's never been done, but if anyone can do it, you can do it, and that constant support is what really made me think like, okay, my mom believes in me, and my siblings as well. So I have siblings in my family who did computer science, and my brother is like the smartest person I know. So just also having those role models ahead of me who weren't necessarily doing aerospace, but they were doing science subjects. And I could also lean on them when I didn't understand something or I needed help. So I think it was just a nice support system. Yeah, even though I didn't see it that way at the time, but I definitely think that fed into my ability to progress.
When, so as you're in high school, you're just falling in love with the physics,
Yeah.
The mathematics, and you're thinking about college, and you're thinking about now your love of aerospace, engineering. What were your thoughts when you're finishing high school about what to do next?
So again, engineering never stopped being like the key thing. I never considered anything else. I don't know why, but I just thought physics and maths, engineering, like what, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. And because I had that initial desire to do aerospace, I also like challenges and I like proving people wrong. So I kind of took it like, well, no one believes I can do it, so I might as well do it. But also, it was the one field of engineering I knew nothing about. So I could kind of imagine and think, okay, this is probably how electrical stuff works. This is how this is how all these bits and bobs work. But with aerospace, I was like, not a clue, nowhere to start, so that's where I chose my path. I said, okay, I'm going to do that because I know nothing about it, so it means I can learn so much. And yeah, so that's kind of how, and I kind of had that thought process towards the end of my final year. So in Uganda, you do 4 years of O levels, which is like the first half of high school, and then you do 2 years of A level, and then you go to university. And towards the end of my last year is when I kind of said, okay, I'm going to go for it. Yeah, going to go for aerospace. And still no one believed me. And I was like, okay, it's okay. I can do this.
So like even like towards the end, like their final 2 years, obviously your mom is supporting you. She's your champion. You're pursuing this path. But a lot of people are thinking like, this is Lynette, this is not going to work out for you, or this is really not the best path for you. We don't see very many women in this area. How did you deal with those types of negative comments?
To be fair, for the most time, I didn't entertain the comments. But when they actually get to you, because no one is strong enough to like withstand constant negative information. To be fair, when it did get to me, I drew strength from like my mom again, my support system, but also God. So like I have a very strong spiritual side to me, and I lean on my faith a lot. literally through every challenge I go through, because they're still going through similar challenges. And I just completely lean on my faith and I pray through it and actually remember. So obviously, like, alongside the negativity that other people bring up on you, there's also the doubt, the self-doubt,
Yes.
and mine was really magnified because I had a car crash in just before my final year of high school, and it kind of wiped away the whole year.
Word.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
even though I kind of continued against advice, don't go, you need to repeat the year, I was like, no, I'm going for it. So things like that made me doubt myself as well. And like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have done this. Maybe you should have given your brain a break and take a step back. And so I think it's at that point that I really leaned on God and I kind of said, okay, if I'm meant to do this, let me ace this. If I'm not, let me fail it and I'll just exit left and just go do something else. And I actually excelled. And so, again, I think the reason I've been able to push through is because I lean on like God for my security and validation rather than humans that are just as flawed as I am. So yeah, that's me. That's how I push through.
Wow. So I love how there's like this theme of you just fighting against difficult situations. You just mentioned this car crash. When that type of thing happens, that can totally demotivate you. It can really be hard to come back.
It is. And I guess I've now had to do it twice, maybe three times. And to be fair, each time, okay, so it's multifaceted. So for me, the way I deal with situations like that is already from like kind of the people, my family, my dad, our tribe, our culture. It's just a culture of fighters, and we were like, even though life deals you a bad hand, you take the lemons and you make lemonade, kind of like how people say. And so I've always been ingrained, that's been ingrained in my mind of like, life is tough. Yeah. It's going to be tough again. So then just keep going, So on top of that, like fighter mentality that I was raised with, being raised in a third world country, it's not like fairy tales. You do go through adversity even while you're growing up. So that kind of grooms you to force your way through challenges. And then in addition to that, to be fair, it was just a support network. Like, people are everything. I don't think humans are designed to walk alone, and no one can overcome anything alone. And so, again, my family was always there. Even when I had that car crash, they rehabilitated me. My friends surrounded me. Yeah, so that's kind of how I pushed through those kinds of situations. I lean on people. I lean on my faith in God, and I also kind of just draw from that inner strength. Yeah.
Have you always been a fighter like that?
I would say, yeah. I'm not really, I don't like to self-assess, but if I had to, I would say, yeah, I would say I've always been a fighter. I've always had to fight something. There's always been something in my way, because it's either you're too young, you're a girl, you're the wrong color, you're the wrong this. Like, there's always someone I'm trying to like push through. Like, I'm actually, I can do this. Let's just ignore everything. I can do this. Yeah. So I think I naturally had to become a fighter because of the life that I've had to live through. Yeah.
Tell me about going to university and standing out as being one of the females in the classroom in these aerospace classes.
Yeah, that was very interesting because so there was about 8 females in my undergraduate class, and there was about 100 people in that class.
Really?
Yeah, it's a whole lecture theatre, so it was probably way more than that, if I'm to be honest. And it was interesting because on top of being the only female, I was also the only Black female. And so I had to sort of overcome culture shock, overcome the awkwardness of okay, I need to engage everyone and just try and fit in somewhere. So it was a bit hard in the beginning, but then I kind of leaned on like like the ACS, like the groups in the university, and there were a few people that engaged me as well, so that helped a lot. But at the end of the day, like the course was also very involving, like very, it was a heavy course. And so there wasn't much time to kind of spend feeling so low about like connections. Like it was just like, I need to figure this out. And
Yeah.
the lecturers were really supportive as well. Like they were just like great. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. It did feel like, do I have to stand a chance here? But you just have to keep going, don't you?
Yeah. You didn't stop with your bachelor's. So you finish your undergraduate degree in these very, very difficult, engineering, aerospace subjects with just so much work is involved to do that. And a lot of us would be happy to finish that. A lot of us would be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go work now. I've done my coursework. Was very happy to be able to get through all of that. And you decide that it was important to continue on. What was it? At what point did you know that, you know what, I want to go to graduate school and keep pursuing this?
Actually, it's a very simple answer. It was the criteria for the job that I wanted.
Oh.
And so when I graduated from my bachelor's, I knew that I wanted to work for either Rolls-Royce or Airbus
Oh,
because
you knew already.
like I knew what I wanted. I didn't know if I'd get it.
Oh, wow.
So I really was drawn to Rolls-Royce because as a first choice because it was like obviously the leading UK engineering, aero engine company, and when I did it, there was a course in my uni where I had to kind of design a whole aircraft on a team, and my bit was the engines, and it was so much fun. And so I then thought, maybe I should work for an engine company. And so when I saw their criteria was I had to get a master's on top of my undergrad. So that's kind of how I just said, okay, I'm going to do my master's and I'm going to do it in the leading aerospace university because I want it to be like a solid, master's. And so that's kind of why I chose to do it, to specialize even more because I did a master's in the same field really. It was advanced aeronautical engineering. But I mainly did it because I wanted to give myself the best chance to get into a company where I knew I could grow and learn and develop in the area that I was passionate about.
That is super cool that you, like, while in college, you had already identified like your goal. Like, I want to work at Rolls-Royce. And you're like, I'm not sure if I'll get it, but I'm going to do everything I can to get that job.
Yeah. And the crazy part is I had no clue that I'd get it. But actually, because when I graduated from my undergrad and I became like the second female aerospace engineer from my country in over 30 years.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my.
And so I happened to do an interview and someone asked me, what are you going to do now? And I was like, no clue, but where's Airbus? And I said it really casually. I didn't even have any hope that I would get in. And so when I actually got the role, I was like, that is crazy. Yeah.
That is fantastic. What did that feel like to find out you're the second?
It felt absolutely amazing, to be honest, because it's not like it was a goal that was driving me. I had no clue. I didn't like research what are the stats in this field. I just kind of went for what I liked. So when I found that out, I was really it was quite rewarding and it felt really fulfilling. And it also felt very scary because I felt like I had now stepped into shoes that I needed to continue to inspire people, and I now had like a big responsibility to do it, and so it was exciting, but it was also very like daunting. Yeah.
So you get your graduate degree, you're starting your role at Rolls-Royce. which is your dream. This is like something you've been shooting for. And was there at any point, because I found that self-doubt that you mentioned like creeps in all the time. Like it doesn't matter sometimes how much experience you have, how much
Yeah.
education you have, doesn't matter how many kudos and people like telling you like, oh my gosh, you're amazing at this. Doesn't matter about any of those things because self-doubt can always creep in, and it happens to me all the time. I'm kind of curious about, you mentioned self-doubt a little earlier. Did that creep back in once you started your new role?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the self-doubt creeps in every time I start a new challenge. It's like it has a trigger, new challenge, self-doubt.
That's right.
So I think, yeah, it always kicks in whenever I pick up a new project, whenever I pick up a new skill, self-doubt. It's right there. It's always there, and it's just I think for me, the way that I overcome it is just remembering that everyone has to start and just trying to remind myself to be kind to myself because I'm actually really hard on myself and just reminding myself to breathe and let the process teach me because the truth is there will always be things that you absolutely do not know whenever you start something new. There's always something to learn and just remembering that yeah, you will get to that place and not trying not to look at the people that are way ahead of me and allowing that to really intimidate me and just, staying in my space and kind of giving myself a chance to grow. So yeah, I definitely had self-doubt at the beginning of my career.
And you're right. Like comparing ourselves to others is a huge problem because like it's so easy for us to look at other people, where they're at in their career and maybe wish that that's where we were or that we had like done something differently to be, you know, um, earlier in a certain field. I think that's like a difficulty that all of us face is that like comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's remembering that we're all. So the way I like to look at it is like, so I this came to me. It's a very great tool while I was driving to work one day. And I sped past another car. Well, I didn't speed past it, but I kind of drove past it because his lane slowed down. And for a long time, it felt like, wow, great, I'm going to get to where we're going faster. And then all of a sudden, my lane froze and his car went way ahead of mine. And so the whole point is we all arrived. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? And so I think comparison is really detrimental to us because life is going to naturally stagger the traffic. If our lives are like lanes in traffic, we're all naturally going to be at different points. If we were all at the same point, then life would be very weird and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
artificial. And I think there's a lot of beauty in certain people being ahead of us because they can pull us forward, or even when we are behind, we can relate to those that are to come, and we can tell that journey. So
Hmm.
I think it's nice actually that we are at different levels, and it's taking it's using that comparison and taking the negative aspect out and focusing on, okay, the positives of comparing. This person is ahead. Why are they ahead? How do I get there? Is what I'm doing now going to get me to where they are? Yeah, and celebrating them as well, because if they've gotten there, that means I can get there.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to put a positive spin to it when it comes, because it does come. I'm not going to sit
Yeah,
here and
yeah.
compare myself. I think everyone does, and so when I do fall into that state of comparison, I kind of try and put that positive spin on it. Yeah.
I love that. I love that analogy of being in traffic. And I love how that positive way of looking at it about how that can inspire you to go further. And I also like how you're talking about like looking behind you at those
Mhm.
who are struggling and how can I help them? How can I inspire that group? And I'm wondering, has mentorship been important to you, like helping to inspire this next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the very minute that I joined the company, we've got lots of schemes in the company as well, just to try and increase that gender balance within engineering. And so I've just been helping with a lot of that work, whether it's bringing girls into the office or going out and speaking at events, just to help them see that there's someone like them out there that's going through the same challenges, or maybe even going to a networking event where they can ask questions and just be like, is it really okay? How does it feel to be in there? So I am absolutely, actually, really passionate about just inspiring the next generation and helping them to believe in themselves and believe that they can absolutely do it if they choose to, because they also don't have to. I think, you know, with the STEM wave, people can also feel pressured to be on it, but not everyone has to be on it, but it's important that those people that want to be on it feel supported, and also those that don't have a clue have an opportunity to be inspired, because sometimes you won't know that you like something until you hear someone talk about it and you're like, actually, I'd love to be really involved with that. And so I mean, I do my bit, and I try to. I share my story with everyone that wants to hear it, and I'm always trying to inspire people to, especially young women, really, because I feel like it's a tough card, unfortunately, and so I'm really passionate just about just inspiring young women to to pursue STEM, and I've done that in many different capacities over the years and currently.
Hmm. What are some of the questions, some of the challenges you're hearing these young girls have right now in regards to getting into STEM careers?
So some of the challenges are, well, it's different. It depends on where you are. So because I get approached by young females in my country, and like Uganda back home, they message me online, and I also get approached by obviously females here in the UK, from different backgrounds. And the questions are always different. So for people who are from like an ethnic minority background, it's questions like, how do you fit in, and how do you overcome barriers related to like your ethnicity? For people from my home, it's more like, how do I even afford this? It's so expensive. How do I get to where you are, with very limited resource? And then like with certain people, this is more of a boys' world. I think that we still need to challenge that mentality at a high school level here in the UK. I still find a lot of girls saying, "Oh, it's not for girls," basically.
Mm.
And what's the point of me doing it, but then sticking out and getting bullied for doing, a boy's
Mhm.
role or something like that? And then some question is just like, what is it actually like to be in there? Because some people are like, yeah, I'll do it, but am I going to find resistance when I get there? And then that
Mm.
sometimes puts them off, because they're like, I'm not going to struggle through this, and then only to get there and still struggle some more. So the questions are very varied, depending on who you speak to.
You mentioned the gender balance, and that's something that here in the U.S., the company I work at, we're talking about a lot. Is how do we increase the gender balance in leadership roles at our company? And I'm kind of curious about what you're doing right now to help with that in your current role, to help get those conversations going, because I think it starts with just getting the conversations, building the awareness that this is an issue.
I mean, so like I said, there are a lot of initiatives within my company around supporting females. So there's mentorship programs to help the women, because obviously we already have a limited pool of females to pull from, because not that many females are studying. So really, it's a grassroots problem. Like, we need to go all the way to the grassroots and remove all the preconditioning that gets put in your mind at a young age, that girls can only do this, and they're only pink and the boys are blue, and it's subtle things that we think don't play a role, but they impact you for a long time. And so I think it's a grassroots issue. And so if we can remove those mental blockers from the young age, we can then get more women coming in. And obviously, if we ourselves take the opportunity to go down to the grassroots and inspire younger women or younger girls to do this, which I think Girls in Data is now doing. I think it's one of the initiatives I've seen, which I'm really happy to have been able to witness and support. And then at a higher level, we need to sort of support and mentor the women that are now in the system, that are now in the company, because it is a very challenging. It's not the same path. People do have subconscious bias, and we do need to find a way to counteract those barriers by really just mentoring them. And I think part of removing those barriers is getting the men to mentor the women, because then it's more of a relational thing. So they get to interact with each other, and because sometimes gender balance can seem like a threat to the men in the company, but it's trying to get people to understand the values and the benefits of having a gender balance, because not everyone knows what they are, and for that reason, they're not really with the agenda. They'd rather not have it. So it's taking that time to sit down with people and educate them on, actually, this is why we're doing this. This is how it could benefit you and your future children and wives and etc. And helping people to see the big picture, because I think sometimes we don't do enough to help, because men are our best allies on this agenda, and I think the more men we get to understand, the better. Of course, we shouldn't have to in a perfect world, but this is the world we're in now, and we need to bring them on that journey, because once we do, then it will be less championing, more working together to achieve a common goal. Yeah.
What advice do you have for those male leaders that are, working with a woman at their company, and they are looking to just encourage that young woman to grow up in the leadership roles at their company? They want to be a good mentor, but they're not quite sure like what that looks like. Can you maybe give some advice for male leaders who are looking to inspire this next generation of young women leaders?
Okay, so I mean, to be fair with mentoring, it's just a conversation, and no one knows all the answers, and I think it's having that open and honest approach with the female mentee that they take on. Like, I'm just trying to. So some of the mentors I've had this approach, and they're kind of like, this is going to be a bit of reverse mentoring as well. Like, I'd love to learn. Please educate me on what your barriers look like, so I can relate, so I can be able to communicate that to my team, and they can understand, because it's more of an experience and a knowledge sharing. So yes, there are aspects that the mentor will teach you, because he's a leader for a reason, and he's got into where he is for a reason. So there is a lot you can learn, but there's also a lot he can learn from you as the mentee, because your experiences are going to make him a much better leader for a diverse workforce. So it's just a conversation. I think there is no there's no one formula for every female. It's just have the conversation, begin the engagement, use the same strategy you use for the guys, because it's just a female, a human being at the end of the day, and just have those conversations. Yeah.
We have another show called Level Up, and we had a lot of questions around like, how does that mentorship relationship start, especially with somebody who's not your superior, somebody you don't report to, and you're looking to build that bridge, build that connection. And a lot of people are actually fearful sometimes of approaching a leader, because they feel like, oh, what do I have to give this person? Like, I want to learn, but there's sometimes a lot of fear even approaching that individual that you want to learn from.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Well, for starters, everyone has something that they can teach someone else, because we all have a wealth of experiences, life experiences that are unique to us. And so we can all add value to each other. And so it's, I think, embracing that to begin with. And then, but I do agree that approaching senior leaders can be very daunting. And I've been very lucky. Again, I think it's that fighter mentality in me. I just go for it, and I just walk up to literally all my the mentors that I have in senior leadership have all kind of been very shocked at my, hey, can you, I would like to learn from you. And that's been my approach. And obviously, I don't go in expecting support. I actually just go in really open-minded that this could go either way. But obviously, I can respect the fact that not everyone might have my character. And in those cases, it's important to create environments where people feel like they can approach those mentors. So I know one approach that we've taken at Rolls-Royce is we have these talent programs where, you know, for a whole day we'll take females away, and we'll it's actually a mixed program. It's for both females and males, and we'll sort of you know, give them a bit of training and coaching on how they can personally develop, and then they'll bring in the senior leaders to speak, and that's a great opportunity. And there's sort of mentors in the room as well who are in leadership positions, and that's a great opportunity to either network and get exposure to someone that might mention you to someone, or to engage those very leaders that have spoken. So it's taking a step. I think it's taking a step to create those spaces where people can approach the leaders. And you know, I personally chair an employee resource group for ethnic minorities in the business, and we regularly have loads of social events in the business, and we get the senior leaders to come to those social events so that they can have a chance to engage the people that need to learn from them or need to share experiences with them. And it's just a conversation, a casual conversation over a drink at a social work event. Yeah, so there's different ways to approach the problem, I guess.
That's super cool. Tell me more about this this group that you chair.
Oh, so so it's called the African Caribbean Pioneers Network, and we're sort of trying to pioneer mindsets of kind of bringing people on that agenda again of the beauty of having a diverse workforce, especially because our employees, our customers are from all over the world, and so just helping people see the value in understanding different cultures and, you know, the intersectional ideas that come out of having a diverse workforce. So some of the work we do is, you know, just helping and supporting the company to bring in that diverse talent, and also so going to universities and speaking, collaborating with external organizations that can guide the company on that journey and give us advice on how to improve retention, and you name it. It's quite multifaceted. So I guess the role involves speaking to very many different stakeholders within the business, and just making sure that there's that bridge between the business and the employees feel like they're supported and they have all the right tools. They feel like they have everything they need to personally develop, and just removing those barriers that they may be facing in their journeys, in their development. Yeah. So it's loads of different events that we do.
For those people who are working at a company that maybe don't have a group like this that you have at Rolls-Royce, do you have any advice for them who maybe are feeling a little bit disconnected, but looking for some more support from leadership to help them?
So I would say, you know, there's external organizations as well, like Women in Data, that sort of got a pool of mentors that sign themselves up. You know, well, actually, the Women in Data ambassadors are kind of the awardees, but there's lots of other organizations like STEMETs that they pull in mentors from companies that you can approach. And so signing up to programs like that, I would say, is the quickest way to get a mentor who's already tuned in to mentoring you, or they came in ready to mentor someone. because they've volunteered their time. And other approaches are just to really just approach the mentors yourself if you're bold enough in within your business. And then maybe just if you're again bold enough, start the ERG yourself.
I love that. Yeah.
Someone got to start it, and it's a great opportunity to develop. So,
what advice would you give for those who are mentoring somebody for the very first time?
again, same thing I would say is it's just a conversation. So, and obviously, I guess it helps to speak to someone that's mentored people before, just to get some guidance on what to expect and to maybe the best methods, the best use of time, because that can be a challenge. Having an effective session. So yeah, I guess you could do a bit of research and speak to people that have mentored people. But at the end of the day, I think mentorship should be really simple because it should be you sharing the experiences that you've learned. Like the journey you've taken. That's literally what you're sharing with this person that's looking to learn from you. So you don't have to look up any answers because the reason they've come to you for mentorship is because they see you as someone who's got into a place that they would love to be or carries a mindset that they would love to have. So there's not a lot of pre-work for you at a personal level, but there's, I guess, if you have challenges in the relational aspects, then it might be wise to get some advice on how to do that. But it should be a really relaxed. I think the most fruitful mentor-mentee relationships are just casual and very relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's that relationship building. It doesn't need to be a huge formal structure. It could be just very much about getting to know each other and helping each other along. And it is very much a two way thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the only difference is when there is a goal to achieve. So if I'm mentoring someone to get a certain grade or a certain degree or qualification, that's slightly different because I'd need to set them
Mhm.
markers to hit. But if it's more of a career journey, then that's a more relaxed approach, I would say.
I want to talk to you about this award that you received, being named one of the top 20 women in data in the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was actually really shocking and and unexpected, and really it came at a very interesting time of my life because last year was a really challenging year for me, and I had two losses in my life, and I got that award. So I had a lot of mixed emotions to navigate, but the award was it was very fulfilling, and it gave me a sense of um, confidence, and it kind of also it really encouraged me because it made me feel like, okay, my work is valued. Someone out there appreciates what I'm doing, because it wasn't I was anonymously nominated, and I got this random call from someone saying, hey, you've won this award, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? I didn't even know. I didn't sign up for this. And it was nice. It was good to see, because sometimes it feels nice to be valued for the work that you do, and I think it was really an encouraging situation and experience. Yeah, great opportunity to inspire even more people. Great platform. I was just thinking, okay, I can now really help people see that they can do anything they set their
Hmm.
minds to. Help females see that.
Lynette, you just shared that some hard things were happening last year. And just over the course of this conversation, you have mentioned a couple things that just different hardships you've endured throughout your life. And you have just constantly bounced back. And you're a fighter. And I'm curious about your advice for those who are maybe in a very difficult spot right now. They have maybe been moving on in life, things have been going good, they've gone to college, they're maybe in their career, and they're now encountering some very hard, difficult times.
I think it's a very challenging question because it's very specific to the challenge, to the situation one would be going through. I don't think there's one size fits all, but I think it's also just reminding yourself that things do pass. there are seasons in life, and the challenging times, they don't last forever. Well, unless you allow them to drown you, then they can last forever and actually get worse. But it's remaining, taking, for me, when I face adversity, I just slow life down to hours and days. I'm like, okay, I did day one, great, and celebrate the little victories, and get myself back to a place where I'm 100%. So just being kind to yourself and leaning on people as well. And I would say definitely pray to God, because that's what definitely gets me through my challenges, because we can make plans and God laughs, because at the end of the day, He's got the final say. So I would say, if you're going through a challenge, sort of slow things down and process and see what you can learn from the challenge, or what you can still do within your challenges. And maybe what you can do is just stop and focus on self and rebuilding self in those moments. So it's just doing whatever you can to keep going and not to lose hope, basically, because at the end of the day, challenges pass and they'll come around again. That's the only thing that's guaranteed in life, that they will pass and they will come around again. So it's better to have that mentality and have vision, keep dreaming.
It's funny. I was listening to this one pastor, and he's talking about how, like, you're either in a trial, coming out of a trial, or about to go into a trial. Those are like the three stages.
Literally, for everybody. It doesn't discriminate whether you've got lots of money, little money, or you're black, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. We're all going to go through a cycle of trials and challenges. And they're good, because at the end of the day, challenges build character, especially when you persevere through them. And so there's so much of my character that has been built through my adversity. So in a way, when you look at those challenges as a gift, an opportunity to learn, and to that's another experience you'll carry that will empower the next person. That will help you to relate to the next person, that will help you to pull someone else ahead with you, or that will help you to overcome your next barrier that you probably wouldn't have been able to overcome if you didn't go through this one. So yeah, life is full of challenges, but we just need to overcome.
And Lynette, I love your perspective on, like, how will this experience teach me, and how can I use this to be able to be helpful to someone else who might be going through something difficult later on.
Yeah, absolutely. We always need to think that way, because we're not designed to live alone. And the more, if we can help others, if we can remove those barriers and challenges for others, then we can have more people working effectively. So I'm always thinking of, like, my field in particular. Like, there's so much I'd love to do to empower girls to have more opportunities to study engineering, and bringing those resources to them, because I know they can't afford to go and find them. And so if I can do that for them, and then there's 10 more of me, not one of me, the world is a much better place. Does that make sense? And so there's a lot of benefit for me to bring everyone else. Well, I probably can't carry the whole world because I'm not Superman, but even if it's one person that I impact, or that any of us impact, because we all have people that look to us, and we all have people that we can bring forward. So yeah, it's just having that ripple effect and making the world a better place as a group, as a team. Yeah.
To close out, we talked about difficulty, and one of the things that all of us are going through right now is COVID-19, and a lot
Yeah.
of us have family members, friends who might be getting the virus. A lot of us right now are alone, isolated at home, and
Yeah.
you were talking about how, like, we're not made to be alone, and connection is so important for us. And right now, that's harder for many of us. And I was
Mhm.
wondering if you can talk a little bit about just your experience as you're dealing with COVID-19 and not able to go into the office right now.
Yeah, so COVID-19 has been very interesting for me, because the lockdown started here in the UK on the same day as on the anniversary of my mom's death. So that's one of the losses I had last year. And it was just a double sorry, not the lockdown. So the lockdown began 2 weeks before, but as a result of COVID-19, obviously, like a lot of companies in the aviation sector are just struggling to sort of carve out a path to the future, because aviation as an industry has lost a huge percentage of its flights and cash flow. And so there's a lot of companies that are, making taking very difficult decisions. And one of the um, decisions that my company made to sort of try and mitigate redundancies is furlough. And so I did get put on furlough about on the same day, on the anniversary of my mom's passing. And that was really challenging because it was already a very lonely time for me, because I always feel like no one can relate to me on that day or in that season. And then it just brought its own more self-doubt, trying to understand, like, why did I get dealt this card, and I think I got out of that part when I realized that actually it had nothing to do with me, and it was more a mitigation process. And there's a lot of beautiful things that have come out of the furlough for me, because I really got to be still and recenter myself and understand what my priorities are and what I want to focus on. And I got to re-energize some of my um, projects, personal projects. But in addition to that, I have been brought back to work, and I've picked up a whole new task, and I've moved to a whole new part of the business in defense. And it's extremely exciting. And I probably wouldn't have had a chance to move to that part, to engage that kind of cutting edge, futuristic design type of work if I hadn't been through that experience. So I guess the reason I'm sharing that is because I know here in the UK, a lot of us have gone through that and are still going through that. And so I think what got me through that phase was thinking, okay, at the end of the day, there's a lot of positives. I live in a first world country, and I have access to I have internet, therefore I have access to like a world full of things that I can use to learn from and develop myself, from YouTube to YouTube on its own is endless. Like, you could stay on it, you could teach yourself how to code just on YouTube, and just all these online courses. And I feel like, in back home we have a saying that goes like, necessity breeds innovation. And I really feel like a lot of innovation is coming out of this time, because people are learning to use the internet and to use digital ways to achieve the same goals that they were achieving before. So, and it's actually given access to more on the internet. So we can actually learn so much more of the internet. So that's from a personal development point of view, so people don't lose hope while they're on break. But from a loneliness point of view and not feeling connected, again, we're so gifted to have the internet, because I couldn't imagine a world where we didn't have internet and we couldn't have video chats. And it's obviously not the same, but it's what we can do for now to stay connected and to stay engaged. And hopefully things will return to normal. But I think because of the beauty of the internet, we can still stay connected, and we can still find new ways to inspire people and to check in on those that really need to be encouraged through these times, who don't necessarily have that support around them. And it's also given us a chance to, like, really, for those of us that are very far from our families, engage our families, because it's slowed life down. And so we have more time to connect with our families. We have more time for the people in our lives, I would say. And so there's actually, I think it's finding the positives out of this very challenging situation. And I mean, there's so many initiatives that have been started here. There's people who are checking in on neighbors and really supporting our friends, because we do have people. I'm very grateful that I have not been impacted by COVID, and neither has my family. So I'm very grateful for that, especially because my country couldn't handle this pandemic, just because of our resources. Um, But even here in the UK, I do have friends who have been impacted, and it's just supporting them through that and being there for them the best you can over the phone until you can actually, or maybe sending them care packages or going to them. So I think even the fact that we still have cargo moving is a blessing, which means we can ship things to each other. And so it's getting creative, actually, like you said. It's getting creative with how we stay connected and not giving up.
Beautiful, Lynette. For those that want to connect with you, want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So LinkedIn is the best way for mentoring and advice and any work project, anything engineering related and career related. LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. And then if it's social, I mean, I've got social media. That's fine. People can reach out, but I think if it's a really intentional, let's work together. It will be LinkedIn, or drop me an email. I guess I'm happy to share my email when people approach me on LinkedIn, because I feel like it's a nice little conduit. If people really are serious, because I've got to filter out the people that are not serious about what they're doing. LinkedIn is that nice little wall, like, hey, this is actually, I'm like, okay, then you can have the full details. So I think LinkedIn, all my social media is wide open. And you can reach out to me on that as well.
But Lynette, thank you so much for being on Data Talk.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Data Talk. We share out new episodes every single week, and you can find the full catalog of previous episodes as well as YouTube videos by going to the Experian news blog. The URL is just experian.com/datatalk. And as always, we love hearing from our community. So if you have any comments or suggestions for future shows, please reach out. You can find us on Twitter at Experian Data Lab, or you can always reach out to me directly. My email is michael.delgado@experian.com. Take care, and we'll chat next week.